Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the franchise guide.
So, along the lines that this is not just because it is a franchise, doesn't mean, you'll open up and the revenue and profits start flowing right away. You may not get a paycheck the first week you're open.
That's correct.
What are the things that really, and this really applies for, any business, but that people don't tell you that, it sounds like this is a great deal, but you have to understand there's going to be some swings. You may have to find
Absolutely.
the right employees and things like that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that most people don't realize that buy a franchise is that when you look at the item 19 that's published, I can speak for the brands we have, but I believe most brands, they only publish after someone's first full year in business. So you might have started in like February, that year doesn't get published. Then that next year. So the first time you're seeing financials, these are people that are almost at the 2-year mark. And people can get pretty discouraged. They might be in month 3 or 4 and go, what the heck? I thought I'd be making more money. The item 19 said this is like, whoa, like you're looking at people that have made it over that crazy come to Jesus. Like, you're super high. I bought a business. You told all your friends, you go to training and then you open up and, get punched in the face maybe. And you go, oh crap, what the heck did I do? Right. That crisis of meaning. And then you get through that, right, in the business. So I think that's one thing that's important. What I like about franchising, if the franchisors are doing it right, there should really be nothing that's not said or that's a surprise. I would say you're validating with franchisees, right? So you get to
Crucial.
ask franchisee anything. If you were to ask me as a franchisor, how much money can I make? I am legally not allowed to tell you. But if you get on with a franchisee and say, how much money did you make last year? They are allowed to tell you whatever they feel comfortable with. And I highly recommend never skip that. Look at the item 19s. A lot of franchisors can play games with numbers. You want to make sure and validate with the franchisees. And I think you hit it right on. Everyone, they know what's tough. People have said it. Oh man, getting your first few good employees is really tough. Finding a shop might be tough.
Right.
It's a hard work. I've heard this a couple different times. You guys said it was going to be hard work. I didn't realize it was going to be this hard, right? So as much as you might be hearing some things, I would say just listen and, because I think depending on how bad you want to do it, it's a glass half full goggles that you might be wearing.
Right.
And just because something's hard doesn't mean you wouldn't do it. It just means you got to prep. Like anything worth doing is hard. I think about like people that want to lose 50 pounds. You know exactly what you want to look like. You know what you look like now. I want to look like Mark Wahlberg with my shirt off. Okay. Well, I got some work to do. And that's a franchise. That guy that you validated with that's 3-4 years in, who's, oh, I just bought a boat and we went on vacation. Like, that's why I want a business. Great. Don't forget the crazy time that he went through to go from where he was to where he is today. And be ready. That part is so worth it, but it's harder than I think people think.
Yeah. I cannot agree more. I think someone said, and his name is escaping me, who said this, but he's like, I'm an overnight success. It only took me 20 years. So
yeah,
just, you kind of just,
20 years have you look at us like that. Oh, look at what you do. Oh, man, you got it made. I'm like, do what I do. Like there was a time in business as we were growing the gutter company that we missed 11 paychecks in a row to make sure that we could pay this was before franchising. This was when we were trying to figure out just a one-up corporate store. Like the sacrifice that we made, the cars that we drove or didn't drive, the way we lived, the way we sacrificed. I mean, it was ridiculous. There's a reason why not a lot of people franchise their business or why a lot of franchisors never get past 5 franchisees. It's freaking hard.
It is. It's very hard. And you're right. People they look at kind of the end result, but I tell everyone it's a lot of work. There's no such thing as a passive franchise, at least that I know of.
It's truly passive. That's what you call like the stock market, that's passive. You throw some money in there and you hope to make some.
Right. And you have really no say. You can, I guess, vote your proxies, but at the end of the day, that to me, to your point is passive. A franchise is a lot of work. Yeah.
And I will say this, if you're thinking about a franchise and you're thinking about maybe part-time or I can kind of do it like this, if you treat your business like a hobby, it will pay you like a hobby. Your business is a reflection of you and your leadership and of what you're putting into it. So if you're getting good results, you're looking good in the mirror. If you're getting bad results, 99% of the time it's on the franchisee. It's very rare that you see, I wouldn't say rare. I wouldn't want to say it that much, but yeah, some franchisors overpromise, underdeliver. You thought it was going to be more
Mm.
support. It's not. But for the most part, I've seen, you know, it's amazing. Like you can have, 5 franchisees sign on the same day, go to the same exact training, being very similar markets and have completely different results.
I see that all the time. We work the entire country, and it's funny to hear feedback. Oh, it doesn't work in my market. There's a difference here, and it's like I don't think that's the case. Really, are you putting in the time and the effort? As you mentioned, is this a part-time hobby? And I will say from personal experience, and luckily my wife was working at the time, so we did have an income coming in. But as a young, basically my mid-20s, I quit my job to run it full time. I don't think anyone else is going to run the business like yourself. You may find a great general manager, and I don't knock that. And there's plenty of people that are successful, but
Correct.
run it on your own on your own dime. You're going to learn that business fast. You're going to launch it even faster, and you're just going to get a better appreciation because you're going to wear every hat. You're going to figure out the role that you want to play in the business, and then fast forward a year, then decide kind of the direction you want to move in. But I think there's some. It's not. I'm not saying it's mandatory for many brands. It is, but there's definitely some advantages of running it full time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Talking about, and we touched on this a little bit a little while ago, but even you buy just assume you buy a territory, invest in a territory, and you decide you want to expand it, and there is some opportunities. Talk to us about some strategies to scale, some things for people to think about. Do you recommend that they look at more than one territory up front? What are the advantages there in something maybe that is, service based, non brick and mortar type of business?
Yeah, I always look at it like, if you were to buy a piece of property and put a house on it and, and there's a piece of property for sale right next to it, you're going to always regret not buying it because someone's going to put up a house at some point. You're like, oh, I wanted to buy that. It would have been great for this or that. If it's in your budget, and you got to look at the franchise.
Right.
Some franchise have big territories because they don't want you to not like, they don't want you to get landlocked and only hit like, oh, shoot, I can only do $500,000 a year in this franchise.
Mm.
And crap, I'm in my 3rd year. I'm all surrounded and I'm not putting the money I was hoping to in my pocket. So you got to look at that. You got to look at historically, what are people in that franchise doing with 1, 2, or 3 territories? But you do want something to be able to grow into. So that is something to look at. So yes, if possible, yeah, always, go for another territory. However, as a franchisor, I've sold somebody too much territory. Great franchisees doing plenty of business for 1 or 2, but that 3rd one's not doing anything.
Right.
You put a completely new franchisee in there and quadruple the revenue and output of that. So there is limited space when you're selling it and when you're buying it. And a lot of franchisors put clauses in there. It's called a clawback. If you don't develop, your second territory by X date, then we can, you end up forfeiting or they buy it back or something. And that can cause unnecessary pressure for the new franchisee. You buy 2 territories and you're like, oh yeah, year 2, I got to get another truck and that should be no problem. But year 2 might come and year 1 was really hard.
Right.
And now you're paying minimums or you got to buy that truck that you're not even using to fulfill some sort of an FDD requirement. And it could actually make it harder for you. So I don't know if there's a right answer. It's got to be right for you. But I've got the one thing I do know is most people hardly ever saturate their territories anyway.
Correct. Yes. I agree.
So I'm a big believer in deep versus wide, that you think you need all this. It's like starving and going to a buffet. You fill up your plate, you think you're going to eat all this stuff, and then, most of it goes in the garbage. Same thing happens to franchisees when they want more territory. And a lot of franchisors are happy to sell it to them. Oh, we sold a 3-pack. We hit a goal.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean in the long run, it's good for either one.
I like that. And you are right. Some people come to me and say, I just want to own the entire state. And it's like, well, depending on your state, that could be 20, 30 different territories. How are you actively going to, how can you possibly manage and really go as deep as possible in all these territories. You don't need all these territories to make a good living. Really figure out, what that investment looks like, the total investment, what the development schedule looks like,
Correct.
kind of what are the expectations. So that's a great conversation to be had as you're reviewing the territories to see what's available. Yeah.
There's a word out there, responsible franchising and all that stuff. I think most franchises, they want you to be able to make a good living on the one territory. That it's designed so that you can hopefully, again, everyone's financial goals are different. Some people are like, I want to buy a franchise that I put $1 million a year in my pocket. Okay, well, I'm sure there's brands out there, but those probably cost 4 or 5 million.
Right.
But it's all different depending on the brand. So one territory, I would say, if you can get the second, go for it. Third and fourth, you better be exceptional.
And make sure, and look at the financial requirements. Some franchise will say, you have to double the net worth number, the liquidity number in order to be approved. And that's part of the approval process, getting approved and what that approval looks like. So yeah, it's definitely a conversation to be had early, kind of figuring out what the next 5 to 10 years look like, but a great conversation to be had and not waiting till the last minute to figure out what the strategy looks like. So,
and most franchisors will not do, and they shouldn't do, like first refusal, the right of first refusal. Well, hey, let me know if you're going to sell it. It's completely unfair to the fran dev people and the person that went all the way down the line, was ready to buy like the territory next to you. And then right at the end, you're like, oh no, I'm going to buy it.
Right.
So most franchisors should not be offering that to franchisees unless it's like you're the first 3 or 4 franchisees, then yeah, they could probably say something like that. But I'd be wary of, I would never say that. It just gets you in trouble.
It's a good point. You don't know what's available then, basically, if everyone has these right of first refusal. So I agree.
It's tough, but scalable. What are the smart strategies for growing from a single franchise unit to multi-unit ownership? And how do you avoid the buffet plate mistake of buying too much territory too soon?
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.